A bad day does not make a bad week, that a bad week doesn't make a bad year, and that even a bad couple of years doesn't make a bad lifetime. Resilient people put things in perspective, and that's the place I always encourage people to start when they're struggling and trying to be more resilient, is to just zoom out and put whatever you're dealing with in perspective.
Welcome to the Lara Jane Layton Show. This podcast is for you, the person who keeps putting others first. Your self-talk has held you back. You no longer need to take a second seat. Let's explore ways to overcome self-doubt. You can silence that inner bully voice and achieve your full potential. Here's your host, Lara Jane.
Welcome to the show, friend. I am back with a new best friend. I have so many best friends. It's so much fun. But Nina is here to share with us about resilience. And you go, oh, what is that? That's just another buzzword. But really, how do we keep ourselves going? How do we get back up when we fell? Sometimes we don't have control over our outside, but we still have to get back up. So how do we build that resilience? How do we gain that thought process of, I can do this? So the information about Nina is in the show notes. So Nina, let's get started. How can I build resilience?
Well, thank you so much for having me on, Laura. I appreciate being here. There's a lot to building resilience, and I think that people have a misunderstanding about what it is. Some people think it's the same as persistence or grit, like getting back up and keeping going. But resilience, if you look up the definition, there's a little more to it than that. Resilience is your ability to learn, grow stronger, and adapt in a positive way to whatever happens in your life. And like I do, like life happens. Life starts lifing all over you. You have to adjust and adapt. You can't just get up and keep pushing forward or double down and go hard and do the same thing over and over. That's more persistence or maybe grit. Resilience is your ability to adapt. Like, oh, that's not going to work out that way. Let's find a new path forward. And our ability to be resilient continues to grow through life. Every time we manage through something and get to the other side, figure out a way forward, we're becoming a little more resilient, a little stronger as we flex that muscle.
So not just getting back up, but what did I learn? How do I prevent it? It's all the other things, not just, because if I got up and I'm like, rah, 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 I'm never doing that again, rah, 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 that's not resilience. It's getting back up and say, I learned from that. This is how I move forward. I've changed, right? Is that kind of what you're saying? Because we're all going to have adversity. Something's going to happen that we get to work through. And that's where we get stronger.
Right. And that's what my whole research and my whole, message is about these days. And I love getting a chance to chat with you and share that, because I had a life full of big things happen in my life that were not part of the plan. So people look at me and say, oh my gosh, she's such a success. People can read my background. So I was a member of the U.S. gymnastics team. And then I was an Emmy Award-winning news anchor. And then I was a tech executive and made millions in an IPO. And I raised these 3 kids and all these, like, they see all of that. They don't see the other side, what I call my reverse resume, the stuff down below the line that we all have. Of all
what a
the
great
things.
name for it.
Yeah, so that's your resume. I call that your above the line stuff. If you looked at your lifetime timeline, like we all see that. But then below the line is all this stuff you've gotten through that really makes you who you are. So that's, not making the Olympic team and feeling like shame and blame and like I was a failure at 16, and then blowing out my knee in college and losing my sport and getting fired from my job when they went younger and blonder when I was on TV. All these different things that make me who I am, going through a divorce, parenting children, like all the things that tough times you go through. Each time you go through one of those and figure out how to get yourself back up and what you learned from it, not just get up and keep going, but learn and get better on the other side of it and thrive on the other side of it. That's how we become more resilient. It's all the things that don't go as planned. I call them thises because, your life's different from mine. So my first book is This Is Not the End, because it's this, whatever your this is. And you hear this when you talk to people, like, and sometimes it's said in whispers to a good friend, like, I can't handle this. How did this become my life? This wasn't part of the plan. That whatever the this is in your life is your own this. So I spend a lot of time thinking about how come some people thrive on the other side of this, whatever happens. And some people get stuck or really struggle. And so what I, offer is some just real tangible things you can do to get yourself back up and learn, grow stronger, and adapt in a positive way when this happens. And here's this is fun. I don't know much about your audience yet, so you tell me. But if you take the letters in this and you rearrange them, it's that. It's all that that happens in our life.
That works.
It works. It works, right? Yeah. So that's what resilience is this concept of getting, learning and growing stronger. And there's lots of different analogies and things people use for it. But what I look into is why some people can get up and keep going and be okay on the other side of stuff, and not just okay, but stronger. And why some people get stuck in those moments. They get fired and they have a really hard time moving forward. They get divorced, they get stuck in the funk of a divorce. And that just becomes who they are. And then there are other people who go through those same things and on the other side of it, just rock star it and go, well, here's my next thing I'm going to be fantastic at.
Let's rock star this life. Absolutely. I love that.
Yeah.
I was thinking about being at the bank the other day, and one of the people in line or at the teller was talking to him all about all the adversity in our life, just on, and then this happened, and then this happened, and all these bad things. And I thought, she's not very happy. She's really holding on, like not trying to judge her as an individual, but thinking how much she wanted that to be a part of her story instead of letting it go. And then this other guy walks in. Oh, if you want to be judgy, look like a homeless hobo on the side of the road. But he drove a nice car. He was just being his comfortable self.
Yeah.
And he comes in and was just talking about all the great things and how wonderful everything is. And I'm like, oh my gosh, this is two totally different. If you saw them on the outside, you would think the opposite. But
Mhm.
listening to their self-talk, because that's how we present ourselves, right? Is whatever we do, our self-talk is what we present outside. And he was looking at all the good things. And I just in one little incident, being at the bank, I saw both stories at once. And I'm like, wow. And how do we become that person who learns from the water heater going out and we had to take cold showers for 5 days? How do
Wait, are
you
you speaking from
That's what she was
from
one of the
I
things
thought you
she
were
was
speaking
complaining
from
about now.
oh, not recent experience. No. You're in a cold spot too. I was going to really feel bad for you.
I would find a way. We'd be staying somewhere else.
Right. Yeah, I'm with you 100%. But yeah,
But
some
yeah.
people will spend all their time focusing on that. I didn't make up this saying, but there's a great saying I hear people refer to often when discussing this. Is where your thoughts go, your energy flows. Like you become the things that we talk about. When I talk about it, I say the words in your head come out of
Mhm.
your mouth, and
Oh,
that
yeah.
becomes your story. So the words in your head come out of your mouth, and that becomes your story. So we do a lot of this, women, all of us, we do this a lot. We do this self-sabotage language sometimes. And this is a little different than the getting stuck in the moments. People who focus on the past all the time, that's a different piece. So let's start there. So for the person in the poor woman in the bank, I don't know her name, but bless her heart. I'm down here in the South. Bless her heart. The woman in the bank. If you spend, and you listening, if you think about something you're going through right now, or where you spend your thought process, any good therapist will tell you if you spend a lot of time in the past, in the woulda, shoulda, coulda, woe is me, this happened, I wish I'd have done things differently, married the different guy, taken the different job, hung out with different people. If you spend all your time in that past thinking about before, that's where depression lives. And if you spend all your time in the future, your thoughts are like what ifs and the doomsday scenario and filling in the blanks to all the scary things that could happen. That's where anxiety lives. So you have just this moment. So our guy that walked into the bank was just in his moment, in his grubby clothes, getting out of his car, but he was in his own moment and choosing, it's a choice we make, to focus on more positive things. Because I am certain, because nobody gets a pass, that guy had crappy things that had happened to him as well. He's probably had tough chapters. Nobody, goes through life without any tough things happening. But you're choosing to dwell on the past or worry about the future, or you can be right where you are and go, this is me in this moment, and choose to be not actually happy about it, just not so grumpy about it. I don't think you have to be happy all the time, but you can choose to be happy anytime.
I know people that always, oh, I wish that I had a different parent, or I wish I had a different whatever, or if I could do it over, I'd do this. And sometimes I'm not real compassionate. Like I'll say and give away all this strength you got from that.
Oh.
Like, oh, I wish my dad hadn't have died so long ago. Well, look what an amazing provider you are. Look what you gained because you became the man of the house at such a young age. Look
Mhm.
at what it gave you. And so many times we focus on what we lost. And so it's
It's
why when someone says, I need to lose weight, and I go, why don't you just release it? Like, there's a
release it.
different word. I don't want to lose it because then I'm going to be looking for it. So, what is
Oh,
that?
that's hilarious. I've
Peace.
never heard that. I love that phrase. I don't
It's
wanna
just
lose
what,
weight because I don't wanna go find it later.
yeah, I am going to lose it. It's just, I'm just going to release it. You're done.
Yes. Bye-bye.
Oh, Nina, this has been fun. Let's take a quick break, get a word from our sponsor. When we come back, how can we identify, like, I can't be resilient on everything tomorrow. Where should I start? So we'll be right back. Hey, since I rarely have openings in my coaching schedule, I have a new resource out there on my website. It is called the BFF Coaching Network. And I have offered a spot there for any coach that has been on the show to list their coaching. You can go out there, you can listen to their episodes, you can feel a little bit about them, and then choose a coach that will work for you. So LauraJaneLayton.com, the BFF Coaching Network. All right, Nina, where do I start? This all sounds great, but I gotta start somewhere.
You do have to start somewhere, and when something happens, the first place I start is this exercise I do in perspective, and I'll say, take a piece of paper and turn it sideways and draw a line across it, and then put 10 dots. And those represent every 10 years of your life when you're 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90, 100. I'm pretending that I'm going to live to be 100 with this sheet of paper because I need to, drink less wine and take better care of myself. But I am optimistic, 100. So you put it on that timeline, and then whatever you're dealing with, you're at a moment in time. You can put a dot on that timeline someplace. Some people may be in their 30s and have their dot over, closer to the beginning, like me in my 50s, and someone may have their dot there, or somebody may have their dot in their 80s. But you're on a timeline somewhere, and that piece of paper represents your whole big, messy, marvelous life. All the good stuff and the bad. And the line across the middle, and that gives us some perspective of, there's the good stuff above the line, there's the tough stuff like we were talking about below the line. But this, putting the dot there, the magic in that is all the blank space ahead. There's nothing there yet. And all that blank space ahead in your timeline is yours to fill with what you want it to go in there. You're more in control of your life than anybody else, not your spouse or your kids or your boss or who's president, none of that. You're in control of your life. You, Laura, looking at you tomorrow, you could say, I am done with this. I am done living here. I'm done with this podcast. I'm tired of my family. I know you love your family, but you could say it. I'm tired of my family. And you could just go, I'm going to get a face tat and a mohawk, and I'm going to get a Harley and drive to Florida. Like, you could totally go off the rails.
And it might not even be off the rails. It's just my new path.
Right.
That
right.
sounds fun.
Yeah, I
I've
was gonna
never
say,
had
wait.
a face tattoo.
Now, don't do this just because I put that thought in your head. This is not Inception. I'm not trying to make you do this. But you could, you're in control. You could just say, this is what I'm going to do next. And buck all the, general things that most of us would never think to do. Leave our families and, empty bank accounts and things. You could. It is your life. So this blank space ahead is on a timeline, this perspective piece is a really good place to start when you're struggling with something to go, wait, where does this fit into my life? Because you can see the blank space ahead and you can kind of go, oh, look at all the things I overcame to get here. How lucky am I that I'm still here? Because not everybody got to this point on their timeline, And you can see your achievements above the line. You can see the tough stuff you got through below the line. And this sort of, I call your big, messy, marvelous life, that sheet of paper is really a healthy starting space to become more resilient, because resilient people look at the big picture. They don't look at just the one thing that they're dealing with. They know that a bad day does not make a bad week, that a bad week doesn't make a bad year, and that even a bad couple of years doesn't make a bad lifetime. So resilient people put things in perspective. And that's the place I always encourage people to start when they're struggling and trying to be more resilient, is to just zoom out and put whatever you're dealing with in perspective.
Have you ever had one of those klutzy days where you drop something and then you drop another thing and another thing? It's like, what's going on? I've started, they used to happen a lot. And then I started going, oh, I dropped something. I guess it was meant to be on the floor for now. Like, I'm not going to worry about why I was clumsy for a moment. And it's funny that I don't repeat the pattern when I just discount it. But the second I think, oh, I'm being a klutz, or how could I have dropped that? My mind starts trying to come up with an answer, and it just happened. It
Yes.
doesn't need any more definition than
Or
I dropped it.
or mental energy or worry. It's not all the mental energy and the worry that you have, like, why am I dropping? Maybe I'm declining in my mobility or something, or my dexterity. No, just notice it happen, let it go. And I call those the little thises, like when you drop, like, obviously you're trying to get something done. You didn't plan to drop your pen or whatever. That's just a little this. It's just something that happens. It's not part of the plan. You just have to get to the other side of it. Don't give it too much brain power. Don't give it too much energy. Yeah.
I bump into someone on the way out of the coffee shop, and coffee's all over my shirt now. What do I do for the day?
Don't let it ruin your whole day. That's
you
what you
either own it, or
Yeah.
you have that spare in your closet or in your drawer. It's like, I own it. I did this.
Yeah, you own it and you don't let it ruin your whole day.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It happened.
it's a thing. It's a thing that happened. It's not a bad day. That doesn't make a bad day. I love somebody else said, what is the phrase? I'm not having a bad day. I'm having a character building day.
Oh, I love that. That's such a great way to put it.
I've had some character building days. And if you're a parent and your children can push your buttons, those character building days. I remember when my kids were in high school, some of those character building days where it was a little tougher than I thought it was going to be.
Yeah, I could go on a tangent for that. I thought motherhood was going to be easy because my mom made it look so easy, and she had 8 of us. And it's like, how in the world did she do it? And I felt klutzy with my 3, just the constant learning of, they're all different. They all require a different way of discipline and or feedback.
Yeah.
So it's like balancing that. And that's just our kids. We have our friends, we have our significant others and our coworkers, and so many different personalities that are so different that interacting with them is fun. It makes it not boring.
Right. I have this cool thing that I do, and I'll do it sometimes with executives when they're on offsite, but I also do it with a group of girls if we're out just having coffee or spending time. And it's exactly what you're talking about, like all these different people that we interact with. I always say, hey, you're the main character in the story of your life. Like, you're writing your own book, Laura. It's your book. It's the story of your life. But you're not the main character in anybody else's. And hey, if you're listening and you're a mom, you're not the main character in your kid's book. Sorry. But you're the main character in yours, but you are a character in everybody else's story. So if they were writing their story right now about you, what words would they use? How would they describe you and your actions and how you make them feel? People remember what you do. They remember how you make them feel. So I always say, how would they describe you? Are you helping? Are you hurting? Are you the good guy? Are you the villain? Like how would they describe you in the story of their life? What words would my kids use to describe me? Or how would my spouse, my husband describe me? Yeah. Right? You're a character in that story.
What about the one person that you met one time and you flew off the handle and was out of character,
Right.
And your character in their book for the rest of their life is the villain. You cross paths one time, and it's learning to go, so what? It's like I have a podcast episode out there that talks about the actors in our story. And we have our supporting actors and we have the extras that just seem to just be there and the influences that they have in our daily life and learning to appreciate all the extras. Yeah, they might not seem to have a huge role, but think about these two extras at the bank that
Mhm.
influenced my life, and they absolutely have no idea, And it's
Yep.
just there are extras in all of our stories, and you are an extra in someone's story. But if we worry about it, then we're not being resilient with our own life because our story in their book doesn't matter.
No, and we can, though, have the opportunity to be a positive influence or have an opportunity to show up in a positive way. How we show up, I always say, who are you being, not what are you doing? Like, if you have good values and you are yourself, who are you being in life, not what are you doing in life? And I can think of this. My son, all three of my kids did some type of sports. My daughter was a dancer, and the boys played basketball and baseball. But my oldest son, who I'm so proud of, he's now finishing med school. He's 27, married to a cute
Oh,
girl. Yeah, married to a super cute girl. Anyway, when he was in high school and he would go to play baseball, he would be grumpy some days when I'd get him out of the car because he's a high school boy. Like that comes with grumpy and stinky. They come together. So I remember him getting out of the car, and often I would say, "Hey, when you step in that dugout, are you building people up, or are you the guy they're having to build up? Like, are you bringing the energy, or are you the one that they're having to give the energy to build you up? You get to choose when you step in that dugout what you bring to the table today. So if you're grumpy right now, do you want to step into that dugout grumpy for everybody else, or do you want to do a little mood switch between getting out of my car right now and going over there?" So we all have that choice in any situation. I always say, my default is to smile when I meet somebody. People notice when you smile, and it's so disarming, especially if you're in a not a great situation. I'll just smile. It's lead with that and put that in somebody's world before you start with grumpy. But that's me. And
so
and
many people won't
and you
even
don't
make eye contact.
right,
But
right.
making the eye contact with a smile is so warming.
Mhm.
It's like there is a safe spot out in the world.
Like the checkout lady in the grocery store. I will always smile and say hi and like actually look them in the eyes. And always try to remember, like, not remember, but notice what color eyes they have or what they're wearing. I'm like, this is a person. Like we've lost that somewhere along the way. But I do find that they really appreciate it, that they're seen as a person for a moment in between most people on their phones or doing other things and barely looking up. We have a choice to make their day a little brighter or be grumpy.
And my thought is I always want to make someone's life brighter, but that doesn't always happen because
Mm-mm.
sometimes my attitude in the moment is not as engaging as others.
Well, and it's not your job. It's not your job to make everybody happy either. You don't have to all the time, you know?
Nope.
And I always say I'm not everybody's cup of tea. Like, not everybody has to like me. Sometimes I'll post things online and I think they're hilarious, and other people will just roll their eyes and go, "That's not funny." So
Yeah,
I know I'm not everybody's cup of tea, but it took me into my 50s to get comfortable in my own skin to go, "Hey, I'm not perfect. I'm not everybody's cup of tea, but this is me. This
that's
is
a hard one.
this is who I wanna be." I mean,
Yeah.
that's a big piece of figuring out how you wanna show up in the world because, like, you talk to so many people on this podcast, of we always put ourselves last as women and as moms, and it's always about our spouses or our kids or our boss or our work, and I was the breadwinner too. I mean, it was nonstop. But now I've gotten to the point where I can go, "Oh, well, this is me, and, if you don't like me, that's okay. I like me. I like me with who I am right now." And I'm doing the best I can with what I have to work with. I have a lot of experience. I've learned a lot of things, and this is who I am. Constantly want to get better. Don't get me wrong. I am resilient. I want to continue to adapt and learn and grow stronger. But at the same time, yeah, I'm kind of comfortable at this point in my own skin. But I wasn't when I was younger. Absolutely
Oh,
not.
me either, because we have all those external influences that are saying you need to look like this to be pretty. You need to act like this to be socially
Hmm.
acceptable. You need to smile or nobody will like you. And there's just all these things that being liked is more important than being authentic. And it's like when you can finally feel comfortable and like yourself, then you have that it's okay what they think.
Hmm.
I remember listening to the Abraham tapes from Esther Hicks, and they had this saying in it is, why are you expecting other people to like you when you don't even like that about you? So I was going through a time where I was like, my husband needs to unconditionally accept me like this. And if he doesn't like it, then he's being petty. Well, you know what? It was something I didn't like about me. And I was transferring that I'm not satisfied to you need to be unconditional, where I wasn't even being unconditional myself. And so it's learning those things. And that's what gives us that resilience to get back up is because we've been there. We got
Hmm.
through it. And if you take it as I learned and I grew and I now have a way to deal with this instead of complaining about it constantly, then you have the strength to keep going forward. And I love your little image of putting that timeline out and putting where your dot is and go, oh, I have a lot of time left. Why am I beating myself up over things I can't change where I can change and influence what happens in the future? So that's a great way to at least realize I'm here. And all these things before got me here. They didn't hold me back. They got me here. And
Right.
so many times we look at it as being held back.
Yeah, Laura, I like to tell people, hey, you know what? I say, have you been through some hard things? And some people will give you their laundry list of things. Other people are like, yeah, a couple. I always go, well, you have survived everything life has thrown at you. You're here. You've survived all that hard stuff. And you'll survive the next one too. You can choose to be the survivor in this. Life will throw you hard things, but congratulations. You've survived everything it's thrown at you so far because you're here.
Yes, we are.
Thankfully,
And
I'm
it's
thankful.
nice. Yes, it's nice to know that I'm not the same as I
Mhm.
was 5 years ago. And I thought I was authentic, but things have happened since then. Life has changed. And every day I get a new me because I have new experiences to compare them to. And that's exciting.
Yeah, you'll never be the same person you were yesterday. You'll
Nope.
never will be. You can't unsee things. I used to joke, and I used to say it on the stage, and I don't anymore because it's a little cringy, but you'll like it because you're a mom and you're my age. But I remember one of my first early childhood memories that formed me, and I use it as an example of, how you just wish you could unhear something or
Hmm.
unsee something, and you can't. When someone it gives you an insult, it stings, and you can't unhear it. Like it's there forever. But one of my earliest childhood memories is I walked in on my father, big gruff um, Navy guy. I was a Navy brat. I walked in my father on the toilet. I was probably about 6, and I don't know if I just thought dads didn't poop or what. But I walked into my father on the toilet, and it was like seared into my brain for life because I'm like, oh, I want to unsee this. I totally want to unsee this, but you can't. So that's always an example I use of, every day we hear and see things and form opinions about it or like it or don't like it, and that becomes part of us. So we're never the same person tomorrow that we are today. You get a chance to be the next version of yourself every day.
Yes. And I try to remember that when I'm going through a tough time.
Mhm.
I like the butterfly doesn't become a butterfly with no pain and no frustration or change. They majorly change and they disintegrate and come again. And I'm just a new butterfly over and over again, kind of like the phoenix. We die and we come alive, but we don't technically all the way die. We just get new experiences, so new things. And,
Yeah. You know
you
what I
know,
love about the butterfly one is that if you help the butterfly, then it won't survive.
Oh,
when it's in
yeah,
the
if you
cocoon.
kept it out of the cocoon.
Yeah, so you can't help it. So when you're butterfly in there, you got to remember, oh yeah, this is the work I have to do. No one can help me with this. If I'm going to butterfly, I got to do the work. Yeah.
Yeah, getting out of our shells, getting out of, if you go with the chickens and the ducks, to get out, and the turtles. You help those turtles down into the water. Now they don't have the strength to survive the water. You've got to let yourself gain the strength through your experiences. And if someone else comes and rips the shell off for you, you got to gain that strength somehow.
That's what resilience is. That's why you can't do everything for your children. They need to fall down and learn they can get back up. They need to fail in a class and figure out how to get a better grade next time. They need to not get into their first choice of colleges, and you need to help them figure out how to get into the next one. So I'm big into the failure. I love the turtle analogy. I'm on the board at the aquarium. I'm a huge sea turtle fan. But I think of that analogy, and then I think of my children too as I was raising them. They have to fall down and get up and fall down and get up, because sooner or later they're going to be out in the world in that big giant ocean without me. So you need to let them build those muscles when they're little.
Oh, and it can hurt your heart.
Oh, it's
And
so
that's
hard.
okay. It's okay to want to reach out and help them. But the more we helicopter and do everything for them, the less they can do it on their own.
Yeah.
And this isn't a child podcast, but it's the same with your friends and your coworkers.
Yes.
Sometimes the best learning is to let them struggle in a loving, supportive way.
Always
Not
in a
like,
always in
not
a
like,
loving way.
you idiot, can't
No.
you figure that out?
Always lead with love, but let them struggle. But lead with love. Yes.
Oh, I almost called you the wrong name, Nina. I didn't tell anybody else this, so now it's on the podcast, but my daughter's name's Nina. So.
Oh, well, you have the right name then. You can remember, and you said we're new best friends, so of course you're going to remember my name.
Oh, we are best friends.
I love it.
I have really enjoyed this topic of resilience, and I loved how you reframed my definition. It's not falling down and getting back up. It's learning, and it's changing, and it's progressing. It's not the experience of it. It's how you experience it and how you overcame it. And so I really appreciate that. Well, how about taking a moment, I think you have a book, tell a friend about your book and a little bit about you and what you do. And then what's that one thing we can try this week?
Okay. Well, a little bit about me and my book. So my first book is called This Is Not the End, Strategies to Get You Through the Worst Chapters of Your Life. And it's really if you're in a very difficult spot, it's very personal. It's the don't jump off the bridge. And all the money from that book goes to suicide prevention. So it goes all the way back to my very difficult times in my life. And everyone assumes I've had just nothing but success and happiness, but there were some dark times. And I share how to get out of those. And so, it's the book I wanted when I was in those dark places. When I went to remember Barnes and Noble back in the day, when I would go to Barnes and Noble, there were lots of books about other people's problems and stories and PTSD workbooks. This is just let me get you to the other side of this. It's written for you. So it's called This Is Not the End, Strategies to Get You Through the Worst Chapters of Your Life. And then my second book is called But I Want Both. It's a working mom's guide to living a life she loves. So it's and I wrote it for a lot of young women that I was mentoring at the time whose careers were taking off at the same time they decided to start a family, which happens to so many of us. You get your first big promotion, and then it's also the year you decide to get pregnant, and then life just starts lifing on you from both directions. And it's about deciding what kind of person you want to be, what kind of parent you want to be, who you want to be as a human. And I think you can have both. You just have to decide what that looks like, what success looks like for you. And so I take people through some strategies to figure that out. So those are my books. My background, as I mentioned earlier, I was on the U.S. gymnastics team with Mary Lou Retton in that crowd back in the 80s, and then didn't make the Olympics in 84. And so that was one of my big first failures, as I mentioned. And then I also had many years a gymnast at LSU. I had many years on television, almost 20 years on TV as a news anchor. as a reporter and a news anchor. And then I had 12 years as a tech executive. So I have a very storied past, and I talk about it as if they're chapters. And then in this chapter of my life, I am talking with you, Laura, and other people about how do you do that? How do you keep reinventing yourself, keep learning and growing when things don't go right? And what does resilience look like? And I talk a lot about my own story and my research, and it's a mashup of stoicism and neuroscience and behavioral science and cognitive behavior therapy and a little bit of my own woo-woo magic. It's my own mashup of that. And I do that here on your podcast, obviously, but also on a lot of keynote speeches at conferences and at women's events. And then I have an online workshop called the Now What Workshop for people who are in those moments of now what, just got fired, now what, just got divorced, now what. And so that's my work that I'm doing right now. And I continue to study and research and learn because there's so much that I don't know. And I'm not a clinical therapist, and I do always like to say that. I'm not a licensed clinical therapist. I'm a big fan of therapy, and I highly recommend people go find someone who is a licensed clinical therapist to help them through things. But my workshop just kind of points you in that direction and helps you with some other things.
I love it. And what is our one thing that we can try this week?
One thing to try this week. Okay. If you're in a moment and you are struggling, think about like when something happens, something's going to happen this week. Think about the book of your life. If it was sitting on a table in front of you, what color is it? How deep, how thick is it? Like your name's on the front of it. What's the fonts? When something happens this week, does it even go into the book of your life? Figure out where it fits in. So if that spilt coffee doesn't even go into the book, move on. It is not even a page, much less a chapter. Do not let it give it much credence at all. And if it's a big one, then you can know, hey, this is a crappy chapter. It's not my whole life. So when something happens, this happens, put it in the book of your life. Figure out where it fits in and know that even a bad chapter doesn't make a bad book.
I love that. I love that a bad chapter doesn't make a bad book because we are not bad. And there's no reason for a good, bad definition to start with. We are here learning, growing, changing, experiencing, and love.
Yes. I always usually call it a crappy chapter. I'm like, one crappy chapter doesn't make a bad life, or a horrible story. It's just a tough chapter. It's just one chapter. It's not.
And the happiness in that chapter is it ended. And you are now stronger and you get to move on. So what a beautiful way to look at the tough times that you're going through. Thank you so much for joining me, Nina. Nina and I are not medical or mental licensed professionals here for entertainment, people that have found ways to smooth our paths and would love to help you smooth yours. Thank you for joining and stay tuned for the next episode.
Are you tired of waking up exhausted? You are not alone. If you're looking to take your life back, let's start with the simple step of adjusting your self-talk. Stay tuned for the next episode with your host, Laura Jane. Remember to follow the show so you don't miss the next simple step that you can use to feel more confident. And please leave an honest review.